He's put tracking devices on her car. I'm not sure what he was capable of. I was terrified.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're revealing the most explosive testimony and shocking moments from the 7-week-long federal trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs.
Babysitter for his dog called him and said, "Your car's on fire."
Warning, certain information contains distressing details. Cassie tells her story.
For the first time in 6 years, Cassie coming face to face with Diddy, telling the jury in graphic detail about what they say is the darker side of the rap mogul over the span of their 10-year relationship.
Cassie Ventura's multi-day testimony provided several shocking, detailed accounts of alleged abuse and manipulation at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs.
Today, they didn't have to use their imagination, though. It got real in that courtroom today when the jurors, not the public, not the press, when the jurors saw still screenshots from these freak-offs.
Cassie described being coerced into illicit substance-fueled sex parties known as freak-offs, where she was forced to engage in indecent acts.
And she said she was passed around and objectified by men, and with other men she didn't want to be having sex with on Sean Combs' whim.
She said Combs initially handled hirings for the freak-offs, but the responsibility later fell to her. She described it as a, quote, job, claiming she had little time for anything else.
The freak-offs took up so much of her time that it stifled her music career.
Cassie also alleged that she suffered from the forced encounters, including chronic infections.
Saying here after the freak-off, the room was pretty bad off. The candle wax, the all over the place. And then she described it as having a pungent smell.
She further testified that Combs would film the X-rated entanglements and use the recordings to blackmail her.
Those videos, specifically, of the freak-offs. She testified that Diddy threatened to release them when he got angry.
The prosecution had Cassie recount the alleged history of physical abuse she said she endured at the hands of Combs, including an indecent assault in 2018 after they split.
I just remember crying and saying no, but it was very fast. I don't know if he noticed.
She claims members of his staff not only witnessed violent incidents, but also the aftermath. Cassie recalled one instance where a security guard was purportedly so affected by her appearance that he broke down in tears.
She felt, quote, scared, trapped, like how do you get out of this situation?
In addition to stating that she saw Diddy assault others, Cassie reiterated an allegation from her civil suit that Diddy threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car after discovering their relationship.
So he then organized a dinner where they sat down and discussed it. He threatened to blow up the car. He threatened that he would not be in the country when it happened, according to her testimony.
Not long after the threat, Cudi's car exploded in his driveway.
In 2012, Cassie alleges that Combs was so enraged over her dating Cudi that he blew up Cudi's car. Through a spokesperson, the rapper, born Scott Mescudi, told the New York Times, quote, "This is all true."
Cassie also disclosed that she received a $20 million settlement from Diddy just 24 hours after filing her November 2023 civil lawsuit against him.
When Ventura finished her direct testimony, he turned to his family members assembled in the spectators gallery and mouthed to them, "I'm okay."
Cassie's cross-examination. The defense's cross-examination of Cassie Ventura saw Diddy's legal team focus on the pair's past relationship, painting it as initially loving and consensual.
The defense began establishing the love that Combs and Cassie had at the beginning of their relationship, how things really started, then escalated.
Cassie would go on to describe their romance as, quote, intense, quote, fast-paced, and at first, quote, sweet, emphasizing Diddy's charm and the attention he gave her. The defense introduced texts and emails between the two, filled with affection and jealousy.
So this is them just trying to take the guilt off of Combs and putting it on Ventura instead, and her insecurities about the relationship.
There were also messages brought forth that allegedly showed Cassie's enthusiasm for freak-offs.
And the defense showed another message from 2009 where she told Diddy, quote, "I'm always ready to freak off."
Cassie stated that she agreed to them to please Diddy, but added, quote, "There's a lot more to that." She testified these encounters became less about love and more about control.
Jurors are human beings, and when they see this, they're going to cast some doubts, have some doubts in their minds over whether this was consensual.
The defense, however, argued that she willingly partook of her own accord, with Cassie even admitting to participating in a freak-off while she was dating Kid Cudi. Cassie also clarified that the baby oil used was not, quote, laced with anything, something that had been rumored. The defense also pressed Cassie on both her own and Diddy's state of mind during the violent incidents, including the one at the Intercontinental. Cassie acknowledged struggling with substance use and disclosed that Diddy once OD'd on painkillers at a party in 2012.
But what we seem to be seeing the defense trying to establish here from both sides is state of mind, and that they were both on a lot of drugs during this period.
She revealed that she checked into a treatment facility in 2013 to address her mental health and PTSD, but firmly denied that it was for, quote, love or sex addiction. Meanwhile, prosecutors alleged that the defense is deliberately dragging out the cross-examination of Cassie, who is nearly 9 months pregnant, in hopes she'll go into labor, thus forcing a mistrial.
In a letter to the judge overnight, prosecutors said that defense lawyers are purposely trying to prolong their cross-examination of Ventura into next week in hopes of risking a mistrial.
Cassie's former friend takes the stand.
One witness who testified today was Kerry Morgan, Ventura's best friend of 17 years. She was friends with Ventura before she started dating Combs and throughout most of their relationships.
Cassie Ventura's former friend, Kerry Morgan, detailed a long history of alleged abuse from Diddy that she claims to have witnessed firsthand. Morgan testified to witnessing several violent incidents. One in Los Angeles, where she said she saw Combs push and possibly hit Cassie, and another in Jamaica. It's there that Morgan says she heard, quote, guttural, terrifying screams before seeing Diddy dragging Ventura. Morgan alleges that she and Combs chased after Cassie in golf carts when she fled. Morgan says she found Ventura first, and the two hid in a ditch.
Ventura got up and ran into the woods, and Morgan eventually found Ventura, and they were hiding in a ditch while Combs and another friend was looking for them.
She further testified about being assaulted by Diddy herself, alleging the music mogul struck her with a coat hanger during a confrontation.
Well, there's also evidence that he beat both of them, one of them with a coat hanger. This is certainly not useful evidence for a defendant who is attempting to undermine these questions of whether he used force, fraud, or coercion to get people to go along with his behavior.
She states that Combs later paid her $30,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Morgan also revealed that Combs was jealous of Cassie spending time with actor Michael B. Jordan and often accused her of cheating. On redirect, Morgan clarified that the alleged attack in Jamaica was not jealousy-related, but instead a dispute over how long Ventura was taking in the bathroom.
On cross-examination, the defense didn't even try to challenge her account, instead focused on times she witnessed Combs being loving with Cassie Ventura.
Diddy's former assistant talks.
They need employees. They need people that worked for Combs that were allegedly carrying out illegal activity at his behest.
David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, testified about his experiences while working for the music mogul between 2007 and 2009.
James delivered compelling and at times emotional testimony yesterday, giving jurors an inside look at Combs' luxurious lifestyle with ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura and their rocky relationship.
James recalled an early conversation with Cassie Ventura where he suggested she leave him, and she responded, quote, I can't get out. James confirmed he was regularly tasked with setting up hotel rooms for the couple's freak-offs, which involved a bag containing pill bottles and personal items like lubricant and baby oil. He says he used cash from Combs', quote, personal bag rather than seeking company reimbursement.
Remember, the government says that Combs was running his businesses and carrying out illegal activity.
James also described an incident that made him feel personally endangered. After picking up food from a diner and spotting Suge Knight, James said Combs demanded that he be driven to the diner. With Diddy sitting in the back seat with, quote, 3 handguns in his lap, James testified that the moment left him, quote, shook up. But when they arrived, Knight had left.
The assistant says he turns around, looks in the back seat, and Diddy has 3 handguns on his lap. That is what he testified today. They go back to the diner. Suge Knight is no longer there.
Under cross-examination, James acknowledged a past incident where he grabbed the wrists of a female chef in an argument at Combs' Star Island home. When he told Diddy what had happened, he said Combs responded, quote, you can't be putting your hands on women. Cassie's mother speaks.
We also heard from Cassie's mother, who testified about a payment that she wired to Diddy after Cassie told her that he was threatening to release 2 sex tapes.
Regina Ventura, mother of Cassie Ventura, testified that in December 2011, she received a phone call from her daughter, who said Diddy was threatening to release explicit tapes and have her and her then-boyfriend, Kid Cudi, physically harmed. Regina also testified that Combs contacted her around the same time, demanding $20,000 to, quote, recoup money he claimed to have invested in Cassie.
She said that Diddy demanded that she pay $20,000, as you said, because he was upset that Cassie was with another man. That would be Kid Cudi. And he said, I spent $20,000 on your daughter, so you better pay it back.
Regina said he appeared angry about Cassie's relationship with Cudi. When she and her husband took out a home equity loan to raise the money and sent it to Combs, the funds were returned without explanation just 5 days later.
But she talked about taking photos of her daughter in 2011 when she came home to Connecticut for the Christmas holidays, and that she was shocked to see the bruises on her daughter's body, that she hadn't been aware that her daughter's relationship with Combs had been violent at this point.
Exotic dancer Punisher testifies.
Mr. Hayes told the jury that he got his nickname playing basketball, but his photos, they seem to tell a different story for why he may be using that name today.
Sheree Hayes, a former exotic dancer known as the Punisher, testified that he was hired by Cassie Ventura in the fall of 2012 for what he believed would be a birthday striptease. Upon arriving, Hayes said he was told that the couple instead preferred creating a, quote, sexy scene involving baby oil. He was given a stack of cash and instructed to follow Ventura's lead, while hearing directions from her, quote, husband.
This was his first foray as an escort, but says he would never participate in the so-called freak-offs had he thought Cassie was being coerced.
Hayes stated he was hired between 8 and 12 more times, with some occurring on consecutive days. During these encounters, Hayes said Cassie never refused a direction from Combs, and he observed no signs of discomfort, violence, filming, or intoxication from either party.
He said it didn't seem as though Cassie was there against her will.
He did, however, mention feeling, quote, pressure himself, recalling that in 2016 he was unable to perform, after which he was never contacted again. When questioned about developing feelings for Ventura, Hayes denied having any emotional connection or relationship with her.
Was it intimidating sitting in front of him telling the story?
It was not, because the story is honestly what happened.
Kid Cudi's explosive testimony.
Rapper Kid Cudi testified today about 2 incidents that he alleges involved Sean Combs.
Kid Cudi, born Scott Mescudi, testified about his brief relationship with Cassie Ventura, which began in 2011. He said Ventura confided in him about Combs' abusive behavior. He went on to say that after Diddy allegedly found out about their relationship, Ventura warned Cudi that he was enraged. Cudi and Cassie then talked with one of Combs' employees, who appeared shaken, and said he and his associates were inside Cudi's home. Allegedly, Diddy later admitted he was there, claiming he just wanted to talk. When Cudi returned home, he noticed his security cameras had been moved, gifts were unwrapped, and his dog was locked in a bathroom. He reported the incident to police. A month later, his car was set on fire in what he described as a, quote, Molotov cocktail attack.
Babysitter for his dog called him and said, your car's on fire. And when he arrived, the police were there taking photos, taking evidence at the time, but no one has been charged in connection to that incident, Morgan.
Though he suspected Combs, the defense countered that the only DNA recovered belonged to a woman. Cudi said he never received a follow-up from investigators. He later confronted Combs at a hotel, describing him as a, quote, Marvel supervillain, as he denied involvement in the fire.
They all met at the Soho house, made amends. Cudi asked him about the car at the time, and Combs denied knowing anything about it. But Kid Cudi did say that years later, Combs apologized to him.
Cudi and Ventura ended their relationship in late 2011 due to the, quote, drama and fears for their safety. He further admitted that he felt like Cassie, quote, played him. Diddy's former employee tells all.
Today, jurors heard from Capricorn Clark. She was a former employee of Combs who testified that the music mogul kidnapped and threatened her during her time working for him.
Capricorn Clark, a former employee of Sean Diddy Combs, delivered explosive testimony to start the 3rd week of the music mogul's federal trial. Clark claimed that on her first day working for Diddy, he threatened her about her past ties to Death Row Records, saying that if he found out she had ties to Suge Knight, he'd, quote, have to kill her.
He told me he didn't know that I had anything to do with Suge Knight, and if anything happened, he would have to kill me.
Clark also recounted a time when a diamond jewelry bag in her possession went missing en route to Miami.
She claimed Diddy once accused her of stealing diamond jewelry.
She said Combs allegedly left her behind where she was picked up by his security, locked in an empty office, and subjected to 5 straight days of polygraph tests.
Clark also telling the jury that a large man repeatedly administered lie detector tests to her on suspicion that she stole jewelry loaned to Combs.
One of the men administering the tests allegedly warned her that if she failed, they were going to, quote, throw her into the East River. She also said Combs physically assaulted her after a chef she confided in told him that she hated her job.
She said Sean Combs charged at her and kept shoving her with his hand. She demonstrated for the jury until pushing her all the way out of his house in Miami Beach when she said that she hates it here and forced her out of the house.
Clark's testimony also further outlined Diddy's alleged control over Cassie Ventura's singing career, saying he micromanaged everything from her looks to her opportunities. In December 2011, Clark alleges Combs showed up at her home in a rage, armed with a gun, after discovering Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi. She purports that he said, quote, get dressed, we're going to go kill him, and essentially kidnapped her.
She says that Combs showed up to her apartment early in the morning with a gun and kidnapped her.
Clark says she stayed in the car once they arrived at Cudi's house and secretly warned Ventura via a burner phone.
Testifying that a short time later, Cudi's car pulled up next to them and then took off.
On cross-examination, Clark admitted that while Cassie had talent, she felt her live performances were lacking and that her substance use was interfering with opportunities.
Hard to tell if you want to stay.
Breaking down in court, Clark recalled messages she sent to Combs in 2014 and 2015 begging for forgiveness.
She repeatedly tried to get back into Combs's good graces to work, even up and including in 2024.
She described feeling like a protector for Combs, saying he had no one else looking out for him.
Her explanation was, I had to work. I had to put food on the table. She said that she has a son with autism who is nonverbal. She has to provide for him.
Former assistant testifies under a pseudonym.
A former assistant of Combs taking the stand under the pseudonym Mia, telling jurors about the times Combs allegedly forced himself onto her sexually.
A former assistant to Diddy, testifying under the pseudonym Mia to protect her identity, described a chaotic and toxic work environment during her time as both his personal assistant and director of development at Revolt Films.
She said that she really worked in fear and that sometimes she would go days on end, Kate, without sleeping. And that in one instance, when she was working for Combs in Las Vegas while he had nightclub appearances, that she went 5 days with no sleep.
In her testimony, Mia accused Combs of repeated violence, recalling instances where he allegedly threw her against a wall, into a pool, and chucked an ice bucket at her head.
She witnessed abuse, that she was abused by Combs, violence, sexual assault.
She also alleges that he indecently assaulted her, quote, multiple times, including once after her 40th birthday celebration.
Prosecutors allege that Sean Diddy Combs used his power and his money to run a criminal enterprise and coerce women into sex. And they're hoping that witnesses who were once in his inner circle will help prove that.
Mia also allegedly witnessed Combs physically abuse his former partner, Cassie Ventura, recounting incidents where he purportedly threw her to the ground, cracked her head open, and once chased her during a 2012 trip to Turks and Caicos, where Ventura allegedly feared for her life.
Mia also recounted a story about Combs coming to Ventura's apartment one day. He was very upset. He couldn't reach her. Ultimately, he ended up attacking her and hitting her head on the side of a bed.
Mia described seeing Ventura with many visible injuries, adding that she would often hide in hotels until she healed. She testified that Diddy maintained control through fear, secrecy, and the belief that his, quote, authority was above the police.
And she said his behavior could be, quote, unpredictable and terrifying.
Mia also recalled being responsible for preparing and cleaning hotel rooms for her ex-boss. She says she often found the rooms in disarray, with candle wax, baby oil, and blood of various sorts, ultimately describing the freak-off aftermath as a, quote, nightmare.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges in the case.
Cross-examination of former Diddy employee.
Prosecutors called the defense tactics harassing and humiliating, saying they feared it could have broader implications for victims in other cases.
On the 14th day of Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial, a former employee under the pseudonym Mia faced cross-examination from the defense. She was questioned about messages she sent to Combs after her employment ended, where she offered support and affection.
Mia was confronted with years of her flattering social media posts that called Sean Combs legend or mentor, and all of these loving text messages that showed she stayed in touch with him for 6 years after she left her job in 2017.
Despite no longer working for him, she says she still felt, quote, psychologically under his control. She described feeling immense, quote, blame and shame after Combs allegedly threatened to tell his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura about an incident between them.
She is a delicate witness that she's now starting to embrace the trauma and the psychological trauma that she's had been dealing with, that we're seeing and we're witnessing happening right before our eyes.
She also added that his inner circle routinely ignored Diddy's misconduct. Mia testified that Combs repeatedly stole her phone and saw private messages she sent to Cassie. She alleges he even placed tracking devices on Cassie's car.
He's put tracking devices on her car. I'm not sure what he was capable of. I was terrified.
When asked why she never reported any of the alleged misconduct, including serious indecent assaults, she said she feared being fired, disbelieved, or labeled, quote, crazy. Mia added, quote, I just knew his power and his wrath.
The defense grilled Mia on why she didn't report her abuse allegations, but she fired back, telling the court that she was brainwashed after years of psychological manipulation.
Hotel security guard speaks.
Jurors got a chance to hear from the hotel's former security supervisor earlier on today, and he testified about the $100,000 payoff that Combs made to purchase that incriminating video.
Eddie Garcia, a security officer at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016, testified under immunity after invoking his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Garcia recounted being told of a domestic dispute, which involved Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura, and viewed the surveillance footage.
Eddie Garcia testified the phone, well, it started ringing, and a lot.
Garcia alleges he was contacted by Combs' chief of staff, Christina Coram, who asked if she could get the surveillance footage of the incident. After telling her she would need to go through official channels, he says Combs later called the security desk sounding, quote, very nervous.
Combs makes it very clear that he's worried about this video. He says he sounds nervous. He says, you've got to talk to my manager.
He allegedly offered to, quote, take care of Garcia, who alerted his boss.
Garcia, he then went to his boss and told him Diddy was willing to pay. His boss suggested $50,000.
Once financial compensation was agreed upon, he said that his boss downloaded the video for Diddy the next day. Garcia testified that he signed a non-disclosure agreement on Combs' company letterhead, confirming it was the only copy.
Combs repeatedly calls him his angel, and it's great that he's doing this, but we have to be on the same page, according to his testimony.
He also allegedly spoke with Ventura, who assured him she, quote, wanted this to go away too. Garcia testified that Combs paid him $100,000, which he said he split with his boss and another officer on duty. Cassie's longtime friend called to testify.
Did Sean P. Diddy Combs dangle a woman from the 17th floor balcony of this LA apartment building?
Bryana Bungalan, a friend of Cassie Ventura, testified about a violent 2016 encounter with Diddy. She alleged that he held her over a 17-story balcony before throwing her onto patio furniture, causing injuries and lasting psychological effects.
Sean Combs comes and lifts her up, telling her, you know what the F you did, and lifts her onto the railing. She said her feet were dangling over. Sean Combs then lifted her off the railing, threw her onto some furniture.
Combs allegedly yelled at her, quote, do you know what the F you did? Bungalan said she still doesn't know what Diddy was upset about. She also recounted multiple alleged disturbing episodes at Ventura's apartment, where she often stayed. In one alarming incident, she purports that he burst in and threw a knife in Cassie's direction.
I just remember seeing a knife get thrown in her direction, referring to Ventura. The prosecutor asked, how did Cassie react when the knife was thrown in her direction? Bungalan responded, she threw it back.
She also recalled a 2016 beach photo shoot with Cassie, where she recalled Diddy getting in her face and threatening her, saying, quote, I'm the devil and I could kill you. Bungalan admitted she never reported these incidents because she was afraid of Combs. She also testified that she regularly used substances with Cassie, describing it as, quote, a problem.
It's like anything else. When a person is under the influence, the question mark is whether or not they're seeing what's real or what's perceived.
Cross-examination of Bryana Bungalan.
Bryana Bungalan just wrapped up her second day of testimony. The defense team accused her of lying about Combs's allegedly holding her over a 17th-story balcony back in 2016.
During cross-examination, Bryana Bungalan admitted that she continued seeing Cassie and Diddy after the alleged balcony incident, but claimed she, quote, kept her distance. When confronted with a text where she was offering to get Combs a hoodie, she explained, quote, we were trying to be cool. Combs's attorney also challenged the timeline, citing travel records that suggested his client was in New Jersey at the time of Bungalan's balcony allegation.
The defense counsel has really been trying to tear her testimony apart, attacking her credibility as well as inconsistent statements.
When pressed with, quote, you agree that one person can't be in two places at the same time, Bungalan replied, quote, in theory, yeah, I can't answer that one. In response to the accusation that she filed a $10 million lawsuit for financial gain, Bungalan testified, quote, I care about justice.
She wanted to testify to seek justice.
Diddy accuser Jane tells her story.
According to the prosecution, she had direct experience with these freak-off parties that Combs had, these kind of drug-fueled, days-long parties.
Testifying under a pseudonym, Jane described a pattern of control, coercion, and manipulation during her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. She recalled a substance-fueled trip to the Bahamas, with Combs providing her, quote, doses. After the trip, she says he wired her $10,000 to compensate for her time away from work as an influencer. In 2021, Combs allegedly introduced the idea of her sleeping with other men. Jane testified that another man was involved in their intimate encounters 90% of the time, and although she agreed at first, she claims to have told him she wanted it to stop. She purports feeling obligated to, quote, perform these nights for him, particularly because he was paying her rent. When asked about hotel nights or freak-offs, she described them as encounters involving a male entertainer that sometimes extended beyond 24 hours.
It could be very detailed and very graphic in the coming days, Morgan.
Jane returns to the stand.
What did Jane say on the witness stand today?
Oh, she said a lot, Eva.
On day 19 of Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial, the woman testifying under the pseudonym Jane continued her direct examination. She read texts in which Combs pressured her to send, quote, bad girl messages, despite her expressing fears that he was keeping incriminating footage of their explicit encounters.
Text messages from 2023 introduced today in court reveal just how badly Jane wanted out. I don't want to be used and locked in a room to perform and fulfill your fantasies. I'm coming to the realization of what this really is.
Jane testified that she felt manipulated and degraded, saying she no longer wanted to play a role she described as, quote, dark and, quote, sleazy.
I'm not a porn star. I'm not an animal. I need a break.
Frustrated that he was seeing other women while continuing to plan hotel nights with her, Jane said she felt she had to, quote, earn basic affection. She further described an alleged violent altercation after confronting Combs about another woman, claiming he physically assaulted her and damaged her home before sending an assistant with up to $12,000 in cash. During one incident she referred to as a, quote, sobriety party, Jane said she vomited after intercourse with two men, but was then pushed into having relations with a third. She says she later developed infections.
Broke down in court while describing encounters with multiple sexual partners during so-called hotel nights with Combs, similar to those now infamous freak-offs.
Jane also testified that Cassie Ventura's 2023 lawsuit felt eerily similar to her own experience.
She almost fainted when she learned about Cassie Ventura's lawsuit against Combs, testifying it was like reading her own story.
She says she was at Diddy's home when CNN released footage showing him assaulting Cassie and helped him craft his public apology.
I was stuck. I hit rock bottom, but I made no excuses.
Somber, serious, seemingly facing the music and his own disturbing actions.
Despite everything, Jane testified that they continued to communicate until his arrest.
Sean Combs is still not only just paying her rent, but also paying her legal bills.
Cross-examination of Jane.
Oh, it was the first day under cross-examination, and it was sassy and spicy.
During the multi-day cross-examination by Sean Diddy Combs' defense attorney, Tenny Garagos, Jane acknowledged that she regretted some of her choices, but emphasized they were made under emotional pressure.
The defense was trying to show that Jane was a willing, maybe even eager participant in the kind of sexual lifestyle that Sean Combs was pushing, and they saw occasions when she would text Sean Combs about nights they could get slutty together.
She admitted to taking charge in the so-called freak-offs, going so far as to personally pick the escorts who took part.
She also testified about not sometimes liking these escorts and being attracted to them, and that she, on her own accord, she testified, Jane, that she would sometimes dismiss these escorts and that Combs would be fine with it.
Jane also revealed that she loved to bathe Diddy and watch his favorite show, Dateline. She testified that Combs was open early on about his polyamorous lifestyle, which she initially accepted but later struggled with.
Jane also testifying about the chemistry between herself, Combs, and a male escort, Paul, saying it was so strong they nicknamed it the trifecta.
She especially had trouble with his public relationship with Young Miami. Jane went on to express frustration over unequal treatment, noting that other women received lavish gifts and trips while she did not, even when she complied with Combs's requests.
And then Tenny Garrigo says, yeah, but you got a lot of gifts, didn't you? Did you get a Chanel bag? And she looked at her and said, no, I only got trauma. What about a Bottega Veneta bag? And she sort of recoiled at that.
Financially, Jane confirmed Combs wired her over $150,000 during their time together and invested $20,000 into her dress business.
Jurors are really going to have to wrestle with the fact that he's paying her legal fees, he's paying her rent, present day, while she's pretty much testifying against him.
Jane spoke about a hotel night around New Year's 2022, describing it as lasting roughly 3 days and involving 3 men. She also testified about using the promise of a hotel night to convince Combs to end a trip with another woman, Young Miami, calling it the first time she, quote, pulled that card.
If you don't come home now, we're not going to do anything you want to do. Jane telling the court, that was the first time I was so upset that I pulled that card.
The jury was also shown angry texts Jane sent after discovering Combs had taken another woman on a birthday trip to Turks and Caicos. She says they reconciled when Combs planned a Turks and Caicos trip for just the 2 of them. Las Vegas trip with icon rapper.
Specifically discussing an issue from 2024 when Jane testified that she flew to Las Vegas with a friend of hers who's a famous rapper.
Jane's testimony about a 2024 trip to Las Vegas stirred significant attention in the courtroom. During direct examination, she described traveling in January 2024, while briefly separated from Sean Diddy Combs, on a private jet with an unnamed icon rapper and his entourage. The trip was part of a birthday celebration. That night, according to Jane, the group watched a woman engage in sexual activity with a male adult entertainer known as Antoine, whom she knew from prior encounters with Diddy. She further testified that the high-profile rapper asked for other male escort recommendations. Jane went on to say that she had never been intimate with Antoine outside of her hotel nights with Combs. However, after she reconciled with him later that year, he accused her of being unfaithful. As for the identity of the icon rapper, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo pushed for the names of those present during the Las Vegas encounter to be disclosed.
Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo argued that they should go on the record with their real name so that when someone hears about testimony who's outside of the trial and they might have information about that testimony, that they can come forward.
However, Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey objected, arguing that doing so would amount to an effort to, quote, harass and intimidate the witness. Judge Arun Subramanian ultimately ruled that the January 2024 incident was not directly tied to the trafficking charges against Sean Combs, and therefore the rapper involved did not in fact need to be named.
They're arguing that this is an infringement on Jane's privacy because these are people that she's connected to and events that she participated in.
Jury shown explicit messages and videos.
Today, the jury in New York City's most famous trial of the moment, Sean Diddy Combs, viewing real-life footage of the infamous sex parties known as freak-offs.
The realigned jury in Sean Diddy Combs' criminal trial was presented with a series of records, messages, and most notably, explicit video footage of the so-called freak-offs.
These are the videos that depicted Cassie Ventura with male escorts. And these videos, explicit though they are at the heart of the prosecutor's case.
These were presented by summary witnesses Ananya Sankar and U.S. Attorney's Office Special Agent Deliasa Penland, who were called by the government to help clarify previous witness testimony.
The graphs, the charts that we spoke of yesterday, where there are locations, dates, names, flight records of people who were possibly involved in these alleged freak-offs or hotel nights, as Jane testified to last week.
Jurors reviewed documentation supporting a purported meeting between Combs, Cassie Ventura, and male escorts at hotels with travel and lodging expenses and damages charged to Combs' credit card.
The jury saw hotel records detailing a 2012 hotel stay where the rap mogul racked up more than $46,000 in room damage fees, all paid for by Combs' company.
Additional travel invoices and messages from 2012 and 2013 showed Ventura being flown across the country, as well as text exchanges arranging freak-offs with multiple men.
The videos came with hotel receipts, credit card statements, travel records that helped give the jury a full picture of how Sean Combs allegedly got her and male escorts to different hotel rooms for the purposes of these sexual encounters.
One 2013 thread showed Cassie asking Diddy whether he had recorded a particular encounter on his phone. The jury was then shown actual video clips from explicit encounters, marking the first time they viewed moving images rather than stills or audio.
Behind these doors, a jury seeing for the first time what the world's been talking about for months. Videos of those notorious so-called freak-offs involving Sean Diddy Combs.
The jurors donned headphones and watched approximately 10 minutes of video footage depicting the X-rated encounters involving Diddy, Cassie, and male escorts. It's reported that the courtroom fell silent as faint moans from the footage leaked through the headphones.
The gallery was not allowed to see or hear these explicit videos, but as the excerpts played, we could faintly hear the sound of music and moaning noises.
Special agent takes the stand.
The prosecution's final witness, a special agent with Homeland Security, returning to the stand.
Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent Joseph Cercello continued his testimony on the 28th day of Sean Combs' federal trial. He confirmed the existence of numerous explicit videos involving Combs, Jane, a pseudonymous accuser who dated Diddy from 2021 to 2024, and various other men.
They were known as freak-offs, hotel nights, or wild king nights. And there was one including just weeks before Combs' arrest there.
The jury viewed more than 12 minutes of these videos, which span dates from late 2021 through 2022, and were referenced in prosecution summary charts.
They're trying to show the sexual acts in the videos are the result of a coordinated criminal activity by Combs and multiple people who worked for him.
Cercello also reviewed detailed records from multiple trips Jane took with Combs, including flights, hotel stays, and credit card transactions often funded by Combs' company Bad Boy Entertainment or staff. One September 2023 trip to New York included hotel bookings for Jane and an entertainer named Sly, with Jane receiving $5,000 from Combs' account manager.
He's giving us the text messages, the flight logs, the hotel reservations, and how they all connect in real time.
Additional messages and booking records from that period show Diddy coordinating logistics with his staff, inquiring about escorts through the company Cowboys for Angels, and organizing hotel stays.
Because to prosecutors, this is the case. It's the hotel invoices, the travel arrangements, the receipts for damages paid to the hotel rooms, the arranging of male escorts and booking them with Cowboys for Angels.
For a January 2023 hotel night in Los Angeles, Combs was seen arranging for 3 entertainers, sending Jane $15,000 and discussing plans for the evening. Records also show texts between Jane and Diddy ahead of an October 2023 sobriety party, with Jane expressing alleged emotional distress and reluctance to engage in the X-rated activities.
Now, Combs has denied running a criminal enterprise and has pleaded not guilty to charges in his racketeering and sex trafficking trial. He has said the relationships were consensual.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Diddy not testifying.
It was the first time, albeit without the jury in the room, that Sean Combs has spoken during his trial.
Outside the presence of the jury, the judge addressed Sean Diddy Combs regarding his decision not to testify in his own defense. When asked how he was feeling, Combs responded, quote, "I'm doing great, Your Honor. and took a moment to thank the judge, prompting a chuckle and appreciative response from the bench.
I'm doing great, Your Honor. I've been wanting to tell you thank you. You're doing an excellent job. This is the first time I've seen these words. A little unusual, I think, for a defendant to thank the judge.
The judge confirmed that Combs understood his right not to testify and that no negative inference could be drawn from that choice. Combs affirmed that it was his personal decision not to take the stand.
The burden does not exist with Sean Combs. He has a Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate himself, and you cannot use that against him. The judge will give that explanation to the jury, and they will begin to consider this case from the standpoint of, did the government prove their case?
Have you been following the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs? Do you think prosecutors made a convincing case, or did they fall short? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
She was shocked to see the bruises on her daughter's body, that she hadn't been aware that her daughter's relationship with Combs had been violent at this point.